So my name is Tom, and I work here as the Dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. But Magnus and I are both relatively new to the world of academia. So I come from the world of biodiversity conservation and policy, and Magnus from emergency response and AI. So I hope, or I think that we're bringing a different practicality to the work that we're trying to embark upon here at the university. Because we're both very concerned with the work that we do has to have a societal impact, that it has to mean something, or it has to contribute in whatever small way to the issue that we're trying to address. So we're going to share the presentation, and I'll speak for a few minutes, and then Magnus, do you want to say anything at the start?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So before we start to look at the issues that we're addressing in our research, I'm a geographer, so I love maps and absolutely everything. And people have different understandings of what the Arctic is. And when we speak in our work, Magnus and I, about the Arctic, this is the area that we're looking at. This is the Arctic as defined by the Arctic Council, which is or has been at least, the primary forum for cooperation between states in the Arctic. It's an enormous area. It covers over 32 million square kilometers, which I think is about a little bit over 6% of the surface of the planet. So it's a huge area, difficult to access, difficult to monitor, much more challenging for scientists to operate in than in many other areas. It's also, in addition to these sort of geographical and climatic challenges that we face working there, it's also now subject increasingly to geopolitical challenges. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, cooperation and data sharing with Russian scientists, which has been going on for decades and has been key to our understanding of the changes that are coming, has more or less stopped, which sort of handicaps our ability to forecast into the future and to advise policymakers and decision makers in Arctic states and beyond on how we can act and what we can do in response to the changes that are coming due to climate change. But perhaps the greatest change that we face is not so much climate change, more the exponential rate of that change. Change is happening so quickly that it's outpacing traditional scientific methods of working. So normally when you're monitoring and assessing whatever the issue is, the climatic or environmental issue, it can take years to gather the information, to harmonize it, and to assess it, and then even longer before scientists who can usually not agree on anything together can put forward recommendations that can be used to try and act in response. So our challenge is, how do we shorten the time between response or detection, understanding what's happening, and presenting viable options for states or managers in the Arctic to act upon? So how do we shorten the time between detection and response? And the work that Magnus and I are doing is just one very small way to try and look in a practical way how we can find a new methodology to address this challenge in shortening that time span. Oh, oops. All my slides are mixed up, but that's okay. As I said, it's good the president isn't here. And it's also good I can do it in English because I've just come from 2 weeks in Ireland. So my Icelandic is very rusty and I feel it very clunky. So it's nice to be able to ad-lib in English. So what Magnus and I have been looking at now over the last year is trade in endangered species in the Arctic. And all of the species pictured on this screen, they're species that live completely or partly in the Arctic, and they're all classified by the World Conservation Union, IUCN, as endangered to different degrees. And so what Magnus and I started to look at is why is there trade in endangered species in the first place? What species are being traded? What impact is it having on them? Why are they being traded? There are lots of different mechanisms, like the Convention on International Trade in endangered species, CITES, there's the World Conservation Union. There's loads of different multilateral mechanisms that try to manage and have an impact on this trade. But why is there trade in the first place? And is that trade sustainable? And are those mechanisms having an impact on the issue they were supposed or designed to address? So what we discovered quite quickly, and my slides are out of sync here, so that's why. What we discovered quite quickly was one of the big challenges that scientists face is harmonization. how do we collect information from multiple different data sources that are scattered around the world and the Arctic? People collect information in different ways, they process it in different ways, they manage it in different ways, and they make it accessible in different ways. So we discovered very quickly, in order for Magnus and I to understand how trade in endangered species is operating and to understand the impacts of that trade on those species, is trade in endangered species making them more endangered, or is it leading to extinction? We needed to try and look at all of these very many different types of sources, find ways to harmonize them and find ways to access them. And this slide here gives you an example of the complex nature of this challenge. It's a very confusing slide. Again, it's a map, which is always good. But this shows all the different mechanisms, international agreements, different organizations that are designed to look at the conservation of birds along just one flyway and a small subset of those birds that travel from the Arctic back and forth and in their annual migration patterns. As you can see, there's multiple different types. And when we multiply that with marine species, terrestrial species, it becomes an ever more challenging task. So we sat down together and looked at how my background in conservation and Magnus's in emergency response and artificial intelligence would be able to try and address the problem. And that's where Magnus is going to explain exactly what we've been doing. Magnus.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to introduce the Arctic Tracker itself, the project that me and Tom have been working on, and Tom has been showing you what's at stake at the Arctic conservation, the data gaps and the overall complexity of the topic, the policy challenges and the urgency. But what I'm gonna talk about is how we built the tool, and I'm gonna open the tracker if that's okay with you.
All the slides are mixed up anyway. So
all the slides are mixed up anyway, and I really like this, how I can hang my computer here without it falling. Safe, very safe. So here is the Arctic Tracker, and this is the setup that we worked on. It's a one domain expert, Tom, and one developer, that's me. There was no team, and there was no budget for this. Just two people that wanted to build something that previously had not been possible. And to be honest, 2 years ago, this app would simply not exist. Not because nobody wanted it, because Tom probably wanted something like this for years, just because the resources required were out of scope for a two-person team or even a regional university. The economics simply didn't work and the skill gap too wide. So the method that we developed during the development of the Arctic Tracker app, which is it's a full stack application. It's a database and all the bells and whistles of a proper software project. But this was is something that we started calling domain expert-led development with AI augmented engineering. Tom brought the conservation science, and I brought the AI tools, not as a replacement for the engineering, but as a force multiplier. So to give you a sense of what this platform actually is, because it's not a prototype or a toy, it's very much a production grade system. And it integrates 3 major data sets, and all the methodology is available at the methodology. So these 3 major data sets that have historically been siloed, the CITES International Trade Database, the 473,000, over 473,000 records spanning over 50 years, and the IUCN Red List and the NAMCO catch data, and then we have various data sources for illegal trade. So when we browse the species page, can you hear me okay? Yeah, we look at, for example, the bowhead whale, which is an interesting creature. we can see the IUCN status, the CITES status, and the all of the description of the species, and then we can look into individual data points to see how the conservation efforts towards this species have been over the past decades. And then we can see, like, okay, what are these events? So we can track whether the conservation efforts have been affecting the catch data or the like, is the species being affected by the conservation efforts? So these interactive visualizations, trade records over time with timeline events, these listings are updated, and you can filter them year by year or country by country. You can see the top importers and exporters, and you can go basically in depth into each species. And then we have a summary dashboard, which you can go over, and then you can export the data if you want to look at it properly. One species of interest, and one of the things that were perhaps a little bit tricky during the development of this application was the Siberian sturgeon, because that's it's a species that's very involved in the black market of caviar trade. And for those who understand a little bit about data, when the CITES database for some reason changed its measurement from milligrams to micrograms, the quantity of trades became rather hard to manage. But I want to be clear that this is not some software engineering masterpiece or a data science genius. It's just solid, competent work made possible because of our engagement with the tools and Tom's domain expertise within the conservation literature and his work previously to the previous of the UNAC job, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And if I look just 1 year back when we were starting to develop this, the tools that we were using back then, they seem like rudimental to what is available for us today. So the tools are moving very fast. And just to be clear, before I give Tom back where are our slides? Are our slides in PDF or no?
No, PowerPoint.
They closed them? No. You can perhaps find them. Well, there is zero AI in production. There's no AI running in the application. It's just deterministic, proper Postgres database queried through a type-safe API. There's no LLM running behind this. There's no hallucinations. There is nothing here. And there's also the sustainability angle of the compute. We're not having a LLM producing carbon emissions just to have a clever toy. So do you want to add anything, Tom?
I was just going to say that we can link this to the previous discussion and the keynote presentation as well. When people were asking, like, is it pointless or does it make a difference? One of our interests in this work is to try to find a way to actually determine if the tools that are designed to impact upon conservation actually have an impact, or is there some way that they're not having an impact? And if so, can we understand why to sort of alter them and improve them? But I worked for years in monitoring and assessment, and the work that Magnús and myself have done now just over the last short of a year would have taken, like the last big assessment I worked on, took 8 years from conception to fruition. And that was with like multiple states involved, multiple data sources. So it's just a small way in showing how if we can use AI selectively in the work that we do, it can help us do much better than what we have been trying to do in recent years.
Yeah. It's we can reimagine what is possible with using these tools as a force multiplier. So.
Yeah.